Okay. That's not where we left off. There we go. Okay. Okay, so this is the, I guess this is the sweet stuff. This is where you get to be a little creative, but not too creative. Okay? You don't want to be too creative. So a data dashboard, as I've mentioned before, and last week we talked a little bit about those slicers. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that today. But basically, think about your car. Again, as I mentioned before, think about your car. Think about your microwave. What is all the information it's sharing? Think about when you go to Netflix. Think about the interface. Think about your remote control, how organized it is, the color schemes, the positions, all that kind of stuff. And you have a data dashboard. Okay, so look, feel, fit, form, function. Basically, those F's. Fit, does it fit? That's what you're looking for. What is the functionality of it? And the form. So it's a tool that shows your metrics. It shows your measurements, your metrics, what we've worked on throughout these last 3 days. Okay, the sales growth, the daily average, the bubble charts, all that stuff is part of those metrics and measurements. We've been actually measuring things. Okay? And they update automatically based on the user deciding what he or she wants to look at. Okay? Okay. So that's what we're going to work through today and Thursday. And I got an example I want to work through. Key performance indicators, also KPIs. Okay? So what I want to say about them, and there's not a bullet point here, is rule number one, and the rule, one rule to rule them all, is you only want to have a KPI for things that you care about. Okay? So KPIs, the key word there is key. Okay? So just because we can measure something doesn't mean we need to. Okay? So when we get all that goes to the data analysis paralysis part. You've got all this data and it paralyzes us. Because we think, oh, we got the data on that, let's start measuring it. Let's start making pie charts for everything. That is the wrong attitude. That will destroy your company. That'll slow everybody's work process down. You'll waste so much time on things that are not important. So KPIs, true to themselves, have to be key and strategic. Things you really care about. So if we want to grow our beverage line, then we need to think about the things that are important to identifying whether we're successfully growing our beverage line. And it doesn't just mean sales growth. It could be, are we on target for increasing our products for that beverage space? Maybe now we need, instead of hot coffee or iced coffee, now we need flavored coffees, and we need 20 of them. Okay, so we don't just go out and buy them and then bring them into the store. We've got to taste test. We've got to do some market research, things like that. And so are we on target with all those steps? It kind of turns into project management, things like that. So it's not just about watching sales grow or fall. It's are we on target with our goals to introduce new products to our locations. Again, the examples, automobile, and then the business dashboard. These are some great ones. So financials, cash flow, how much cash we have, accounts receivable, accounts payable, things like that. And you can break it down. The idea here is you can break it down, by an entity, such as a business name or a customer name. Inventory on hand, you can have this big pie chart that shows your entire company by product category. But then we can choose to just look at SKU or product in a particular category. And then customer service. How many calls we respond to by person or by business unit, by year, by month, by day. Just look at it as the radio dials on your radio, if you have a radio in your car. Moving that dial gets you some other station. Pushing a button gets you AM instead of PM, or instead of FM. So just a couple of principles. They need to be timely and have summary information. Again, KPIs that are important to the user. Okay. They should be on a single screen. So if I could write on this, I'd be circling a single screen here. Okay. And we can quickly scan to get the current state of operations. Okay, so a dashboard isn't about looking at something that happened 10 years ago that we can no longer do anything about. It's about how are we doing now, how are we doing in relation to where we want to be, things like that. So we're not at the predictive level yet, but data dashboards giving us quick summary information about what has happened gets us thinking about, oh yeah, we made that mistake, we shouldn't have done that, kind of stuff. A couple more. They need to convey meaning. Okay, so when you decide on a KPI, because today I'm going to give you a prescriptive assignment, which means I'm going to give you exactly what I want to see. But then on your projects that you have to do dashboards on, you have to decide this. It should convey meaning to the user related to the decisions that a user would make. So again, we're not making KPIs or cute little graphs just because we can. Okay, they have to have meaning and offer value. So they should call attention to things that might require attention. So if a person says sales growth is important, we need to have a KPI that has sales growth. We need to have a line chart that's calculated off us that has sales growth percentages going across, so that that salesperson can quickly identify, oh, we have negative 7% sales growth. Because if I don't do that, if I just put, last month we had 50,000 in sales, the month before that we had 54,000 in sales, they know that there's a decrease, but they don't know the math. They're not going to do 50,000 minus 54,000 divided by 54,000. You have to do that for them. You have to calculate that percent change for them. Because again, salespeople are not rocket scientists. Okay? They do not know Excel very well. Okay? They're out there selling. They're not sitting behind a computer punching in Excel functions. They're out there selling, and that's what you want them to do for their 8 hours a day or however long they work. You don't want them working through color schemes, making their own pie charts. It's a waste of what they're hired to do. As we've talked before with color scales, color should be used to call attention. Okay, so many of you have been using the three-tone color scales, and you've actually been creating your own. And you go to color scales at the very bottom, more options I think it is, or create custom. Things like that. So that's very good. You've got some practice in that already on how to do color scales. So this is what it would look like. I got an example we'll work through. But so this is for the call center or the customer service. So the volume of calls throughout a day. Okay. The mode of how we're doing. Unresolved cases that last beyond 15 minutes. So it's not just unresolved cases. They've actually gone to the level of talking about unresolved cases that are still past 15 minutes, that are still out there. We want to know those because we want to respond before our customer gets too mad, too angry with us. So now we've got one based on geography. So Houston, Dallas, and Austin. Okay. Some interesting information. So Dallas, software related. Austin, they're complaining a lot about email. Okay. So just interesting. If we're an ISP, Internet Service Provider, and we have multiple cities, this could be important to us. It could suggest that one of our cities is down, hacked perhaps, as a denial of service, something like that. And then we've got a histogram here. Beautiful, nice little histogram that shows how well we're doing overall. It's skewed, and in this case we want it to be skewed. Because what this is saying is, how many calls do we have that have been resolved in under a minute, 1 to 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, etc. We want a lot of data over here. We don't want it over here. We got one over here that's got resolved in 32 plus minutes. And what's that all about? Extra 2 of them. So that's the other thing, that grand slam thinking is, just because we are familiar with this, because we've been taught it this way, doesn't mean that's right for our business. Skewness can be okay. Okay? Depends on our business, like in this situation. If we had calls that were all the way up here and really low there, it'd be a bell curve, right? But for the intent of the business, the function of the business is, our goal is to move this all the way over here. just like a teacher, without giving extra credit and inflating grades and extending assignments, things like that, our goal, or it should be, LaSalle School especially, is to get most of you over here into the B-A area instead of sitting right in that C area. Right? That's our goal. We want skewness over here. Call center, and one on the left. Does that make sense? Okay, and that's that business. Okay, that's my bad swing. Here, we go this way. I'm gonna switch here. Don't play anymore. Okay. So that's the dashboard. So instead of going in another 10, 15 slides and covering every page of the textbook that just has another screenshot of a dashboard, let's open one up. Okay. So you've got one new assignment. Your new assignment is, where are you? I think it's 6. Yep, 6. So this was due for Thursday. I've got the letter here. So again, it's a letter 1. It gives you exactly what you need to see. It is up to you to develop it. So if it means you need to do some pivot tables to calculate things, that's what you need to do. Or if you're comfortable with summits and that kind of stuff. But just know that in order to complete a dashboard, you need to use pivot charts. So that should suggest you need pivot tables. Okay? Because dashboards are all about slicing and dicing. So if I look at it one way and then I get an interest in looking at it a different way, because of those slicers that we talked about before, I can do that. And we're gonna work through one. So this is your homework. I'm going to make sure that you get it. So you'll need to make 4 graphs, and you'll need 2 slicers. Okay. So this one is spelled out a little more. Be very careful. Okay. You need to canvas this before you open the file. It's very important. Open the file then, look around, and then canvas this again. It'll save you a lot of time. Okay. Because I had some people comment that said, man, if I had just looked at the directions a little more in the last assignment, I could have saved myself 2 hours. Or I could have done this faster. Okay. So again, and you're going to feel that in your projects. When you decide on which project you want to do, make sure you read that thing top to bottom, left to right, and up and down and up, etc. So the skinny of it is you need 4 graphs, 2 slicers, and then these are my notes down here. As you run into trouble, or if you run into trouble. But I'm going to walk through that here with another example. So let's open up Product Sales Dashboard, number 9 here. And just keep in mind that the Series 2 is due Thursday as well. So that was available last week, but it's due for Thursday morning. So we're going to open a Production Calculator. So what I want you to look at, what's pretty cool is, so I'm making this international trade game online, multiplayer online, instead of just played in the classroom. So this is an analysis that I've been doing for products that are in the game. There's a couple hundred, So in the game, I got over 300 products. So this model is a prototype for me to kind of put my head around how these 300 products are going to work together. For example, if I want a cheeseburger, I need beef, I need cheese, I need bread, right? So I built a model that suggested, okay, if beef costs this, cheese costs this, bread costs this, then the cheeseburger's cost should be this, excluding profit for the business as well. So that's what you see here, is a lot of this data, the behind-the-scenes stuff. Okay? What I've got over here is some sales. January to December 2016. Okay, so unit of measure is 1. It's actually all 1. Daily wage, so that's per employee. And this is production per employee. So in one day, the employee could make 75 cheeseburgers. Okay, 25 beef. Different factory, different employee. This isn't all one employee. Okay? It's just the rate. Labor cost. You can see my math there, dividing out the per unit there. My VLOOKUP function, because I'm referencing the raw material. So I'm bringing in the raw material. For example, raw material, number 91. If we scroll down, we'll find 91. Or better. Or is it? Oh, it's right there. That's what I can find it. So I have a VLOOKUP here that's looking for 91 and bringing in total cost. Boom. Okay. I've got a 3 here. It's looking for cheese. It's going over here, finding that 52 cents, putting it up here. Okay. I'm just canvassing the data. That doesn't mean anything for what we're about to do. I just wanted you to be familiar with what the data is. Okay. You don't need to create any pie charts off of my calculations or how I've calculated. Okay. Okay. So I want to walk you through the dashboard now. Okay. So I have 2 charts here already. I've got labor cost by product, and I've got a chart here with sales growth. Okay. What I want to show you, again, so we're going to build a chart here. There's a chart missing. Okay. I made this thing and then I deleted a chart. So I've got all the products, all the product names, all 30 or so of them. If I click on chicken meat, it changes the chart. If I click on chocolate, it changes the charts. If I click on chocolate and then hit Control, hold down my Control button, click on chocolate bar, click on cookies, click on milkshake, click on ice cream cone, ice cream, and then let go, it changes my charts. Okay. If you missed some of those, don't worry. My point was you can click on multiple ones by holding down the Control button, and it changes your charts. Okay. So that's kind of our dessert stuff. That's why I chose those, because they're kind of dessert-y type things. So it's showing the labor cost by product. So ice cream has the highest labor cost. Next is chocolate bars. Some useful information if I'm a product manager, factory manager, CFO, things like that. And then I got my sales over here, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And down here, I've just got the. You wouldn't put this in the dashboard. I just put this here for demonstration. That if you're curious what style this is, it's style 13 and style 9. And we're going to build a chart next using style 11. Okay, so again, you wouldn't have these. You would just quickly delete them. Because they're not pertinent. They're not a KPI or anything like that. That was just for our purpose of learning. Okay. So, I'm trying to think, what do I want to do? Okay, let's do a pie chart. Let's see what a pie chart is. Or is it pie charts? Yeah, let's do a pie chart. Let's talk about that. Okay, so what we need to do, this is key. I'm going to talk about it here. For every chart that you have on your dashboard, it needs its own pivot table. Okay, it's like chicken and the egg. In order to get the chicken, your egg has to be the pivot table. It already has to be developed and established before you can get that chicken. Okay. So we're going to go up here to A1, okay, and we're going to go to Insert, Pivot Table, and we're going to hit OK, and create a new one. So let's do for all intent purpose, sales breakdown is what our name will be. Sales breakdown. Go away. Okay. Didn't say sales breakdown. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to put product name in row. Okay. Okay. And let's put, let's see here, what do I want to try? Okay, very good. I'm going to show you something. Okay. Let's go back to our production cost. Okay. And let's create a calculation over here for total sales. And total sales is the sum of January 2016 through December 2016. For example, your first product, we sum all those up, should be 10,665 and change. Copy that down, bring that all the way down. Okay. We're good? And just a sum of January 16 to December 16. Okay, now, what I want you to notice, and again, this is Ratajcik's method of craziness. Okay? Get used to it. A whole semester of this fun-filled adventure. Is we've already created this pivot table, and you might do this. This is why I'm doing it. You might do this, but I won't be able to be in your dorm room to help you fix it. So that's why I'm doing it on purpose this way. Okay? Like, well, I just created something. Why is it not there? Well, anybody remember what I mentioned before? Okay, you got to refresh, but guess what? Refresh will not work. Okay? Refresh won't bring it. Because our data is only going to Y. And we created a new column in Z. I believe it's Z. I hope it's Z. Yep. Okay? So we got to go to Z. Instead of that Y there, you got to put a Z. Okay? So good. You knew the general area that I was going for. But we needed to change the data source to include Z, which now includes this column. Okay? So now we're going to drag this down to values. Okay? So now we've got sum of total sales for beef. You know, basically a sum if, equivalent of a sum if. Again, don't do sum if. We need this to be a pivot table because we're going to create a pivot chart. Okay? So now I'll go to pivot chart and create a pie chart. Holy cow, Professor, you told us to avoid sherbet. Okay. So, got our little thing here. There's a method to my madness. Hold on. One of the things that we want to remove here is these little buttons. Okay, so I want you to right-click on the button. And there's hide all field buttons on the chart. That just moves them, makes them disappear. Okay. So now, let's copy this chart over to our dashboard. Sneak it in here, size it up. And you can even design it to match up. And we're not going to do style 11 there because I had put a column. I was hoping for a column chart. I decided to do a pie chart to show you something really neat here. So let's go up and make that grayscale background, dark grayscale background. So what's wrong with this chart? Okay, obviously we need to fix this. Sales breakdown. That's the first thing, obviously. But what from chapter 3 is wrong with this chart? Okay, data inc. And just so many slices. I mentioned that before, right? We don't create pie charts. If we have too many slices, it gets too confusing. We start equaling the same amount, things like that. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you to keep it. Okay? Because we're going to use this to look at like 4 or 5 of them at a time. Okay? It's not happening yet, but I'll show you. Okay. So let's go back here to clear this filter, and that's what this means, clear filter. Shows everything again, looks pretty crazy, even down here. Now, what I want you to see is, okay, we created our pivot table, created a pivot chart. If I click on cookies, this thing doesn't change. Okay? Doesn't change. Okay? So I'm down here where flickers or slicers are tricky. They need to connect to a unique pivot table, which created a pivot chart. We did that. Okay. We right-click the slicer, so we're going to do that next. So I want you to right-click on the slicer, this one that we have up here. Right-click and see Report Connections. I can't lift this up. So right click on and then click on report connections. This is where your slicer is able to connect to all the other pivot tables that you create. Okay? So this is why pivot table 1 has this data, pivot table 2, or pivot table 3, sorry, has this data. But notice there is not a pivot table for this one. Okay? Everybody see that? And I guarantee this will happen when you're working on your projects or your homework for Thursday. Important. For each pivot chart, you need its own pivot table. All right, we got that. All pivot tables need to reference the exact same sources. Very important. Make sure when you make your pivot tables, they all source the same ranges. This is before you actually make your values in your pivot table. So what this means is, what do you think happened in my demonstration here? So if I'm telling you that important stuff, we violated the rule, and when did we violate it? Anybody think? I certainly, oh yeah.
Oh, we created Z.
Yes, exactly. When we created Z, for example, when these two were created, they only reference to Y. Okay? Even though they don't use the value in Z, Excel is a stickler, they're strict. So what we need to do is we need to go back into our pivot tables for each of these charts, go to change data source and include Z. Okay. Guarantee this will happen to you. So we're going to go to labor cost by product. Go up here. We're going to go to change data source. So I'm in labor cost by product first. And I'm going to go over here and change the Y to a Z, just like we did when we created a pivot table. Okay. And what was your error? I just did what I shouldn't have done in front of you. Source. Okay. Oh yeah, right. Okay. So basically it says you cannot change your pivot table when there's a slicer already in place. So we have to go over here, right click on report connections and disconnect these guys, just temporarily. Just going to disconnect them temporarily. And now we can go back to our pivot tables. Change data source, put it as a Z. Okay. And now go to sales by product, do the same thing. Change data source, instead of a Y, put a Z. We don't have to do that here because we already did. Okay, did everybody understand that? I did one for you and then I just told you where to go next to do that. Everybody turned off the slicer first, then went in and did change data source to Z instead of Y. Okay. So now I'm back at the dashboard. Right click, go back to our report connections, and now I've got 3. And there we go. So if I click coffee, now I've got coffee. Now obviously, it looks the same, right? When it had cookie, that's because whenever you have one variable, it's 100%. Okay? You don't have any slices. So go do what we did before. Click on chocolate, hit control, click on chocolate bar, click on cookies. Again, holding down my control button. I'm not releasing it at all here. Ice cream cone, milkshake, ice cream. Just get a couple. It doesn't matter. If you don't want to do dessert, it's fine. Okay. So now, instead of that craziness that had all 30 products in those individual slices, that brought no value, right? 30 products with tiny slices all look similar. Because of the dashboard and the slicer mechanism, where we can isolate a couple of products that we're interested in, now the pie chart can offer value. It just so happens that these products have generally the same sales, but their slices are generally equal. So can everybody see that? and I'm not just in C, but the lesson here, so the work you've done. That's why I set it up that way. Like I said, Retention's method is to show you things that are broken, fix them, instead of give you things that are perfect, and then talk about it. Can anybody now? Another thing from the chapter talked about errors. Like visualization is good for spotting errors. Can anybody tell me what's interesting about this chart? Now I've already biased you because I'm saying something about errors, but what is interesting in this chart here? Again, this is another Retention's craziness. Just tell me, what's your gut? What's your gut say? What's the first thing you say when you look at this? It's sales. It's monthly sales for all those products. Okay.
That's really hard for sales.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there's a nice little split or a unique range here, and then somewhere over here in June, everything tightens up and then stays tight. Okay, what are some reasons that could occur? And this is that grand slam stuff instead of just getting the base hits. By saying, look, I made a line chart, hooray.
Summer months.
Okay, so perhaps summer months because you think because of the desserts, or you think because of what we selected, or just in general? There's no wrong answers here. Yeah.
Just some of the items like raw materials for another item.
Yes. Yep. So they would have direct sales relationship. Yep. If we sell more hamburgers, we should be selling more cheese and beef. Yep. Anything else? What else strikes you? I mean, we were up here 1,000, building up some nice sales growth up to 1,000, and then boom, we go back to where everyone else is. I mean, if we unfilter this thing, same message. I mean, now we got a lot of noise. We can't tell, Peter from Paul or whatever. There's an error here. Somewhere along the way, somebody put in the wrong value here and kept it going. So this can be useful. Okay. So data visualization can be useful for error checking too. In fact, let's go and look at that sales by product, which is where this chart originated. This is what it looks like in its raw form. And we've got January, we've got the sales going on here. Okay. Let's go back. They'll be more prevalent or more in production cost. Let's look over in production cost. Okay. So we got $895, $966, $1,000, over $1,000, over $1,100, and now down to $642. Anybody notice anything?
All in.
It's incremental. Yeah. Somebody looked at our report before we did. Okay. Another coworker looked at our report before we did, and maybe that was supposed to be 642. We don't know. And they accidentally, just added one all the way down. For whatever reason, we don't know how they did it. And for some reason, it never stayed the same. I mean, we never have 1150 again. So in this situation, we're not looking for how it happened or why it happened, just that there is something wrong. There is something wrong with our data. So we can't even trust this, because it's talking about sales again. We can't trust this one. We can't trust this one. This one's still fine, but we can't trust this. So that is technically your fifth technique. Like I said, sort, naked eye, sort, filter, statistics. Number 5, data visualization to find errors. So there's no like, if you're looking for some like curtain drop on today's lecture, there isn't one. I didn't plan to end on some spectacular note, but other than to show you some of the uses of the dashboard, other than presenting some cool stuff. So, again, yeah, I mean, got cow, and now I got this, and this, all that kind of stuff. Which note, if you just click on one of these, you're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, we had really good sales, and something happened here, and now we're low. Okay. But if you look at a few more of them together, you can start saying, oh, there's a big pattern. Okay. One could perhaps hypothesize, well, maybe we closed down half of our stores. You know? But hypothesis is a hypothesis, not necessarily truth or fact. So then you would go to another report or call up the CFO or somebody and say, hey, did we, something happened in June? Because I'm looking at our sales trends and, you know, they all even out. Like, no? All right. Any questions? So what you have to do then is this KPI dashboard one. And I give you a blank canvas to put your dashboard on, including the two slicers that you need. I give you sales from 2011, 12, and 13. Okay? And I give you a tab that has data set combined, but note that it doesn't have sales. Okay? It's got all this other juicy stuff. Remember what we just experienced when we created that third chart? It didn't work. Okay? So you need to put some data in here. Because you need to do a temperature and a product category slicer for all of those sales things as well. So, make sense? You're building it from scratch. A couple of heavy moving things. So, for example, so you're going to do VLOOKUPs, you know, based on SKU number. Or if you're lucky, I didn't, or I sorted this, and you could just do this, perhaps. Yeah. But never trust that, okay? Because if I put in row 7 of my sheet SKU number 8, then the whole thing could be messed up. So don't just trust that a coworker gave you everything in the correct format. Okay? Because you could be doing a lot of work and find out in the end that you made an error. Okay. So you got this for you here. Lots of sales data for convenience stores. I want to see some sales trends. Number of stores offering the product by category. Number of stores offering by product. You can determine whether you want to use the values provided or an average. So think about pivot tables when you get that value naturally in a sum. Well, I'll tell you this right now. If you've got 30 products in a category, it's going to literally take 80 times 30, or 80 times 30 and show an astronomical number. When in fact, it's not. We don't have that many stores. For all intent and purpose, let's say that we have 80 stores. So if you get any data that's showing them in 1 or 2 that's showing over 80 stores, you're on the wrong path. You probably consider an average or a max. And you can do that in pivot table. Average number of stores selling this, you know, product category or product, things like that. Top products by sales. I'm not asking for you to create a chart with the top 10. What I'm asking you for is the functionality for me to use a pie chart where I can choose which products I want to look at. Just like we did in our practice, where we had that pie chart with 30-some slices of pie. Okay. And then finally, did anybody read the bottom? Okay. P.S. I'm meeting with Mustafa Surat, the Chief Sales Officer, this afternoon. He may give me more things to add to your dashboard, so check for an email tonight by 5 p.m. I am going to the next level of my craziness. Instead of just giving you tasks in a spreadsheet, verbal tasks and cues versus written ones. Now I'm going to possibly give you something in addition to what you have here. Okay. It could be an email saying, nope, he didn't have anything to add. Or it could be he wants you to also do something for 2012 sales. Or here's 30 more products that weren't in the original report. Something or nothing. So just by 5 p.m., I will have something back to you. And so my advice would be in this last minute of class is kind of think through how you're going to design this. Maybe even put the pivot tables together. And then, have a lot of the heavy lifting done. And then if I give you more data by 5 p.m., you can go to change data source. Like we've done. Or just wait. Or just wait till 5 p.m., whatever you like. This will often happen. Even an hour before a meeting that you've already done all this work, they say, oh, hey, I just got out of a meeting where the big thing is about inventory costs. Can you tell me how much inventory we have in our warehouse of all these products? It was a sales report, but now somebody wants to see inventory dollars too. So it could happen. It's about being nimble and agile and being able to adapt. All right, class is over. Yep.
So number 9, was that in class?
Yeah. Yep. So upload that.
Okay.
Yep. And then that should do it for everything that you see on here. Everything you see on here should be turned in by Thursday, chapter 3. So pretty big chapter. Quiz will be for Friday night. I've got to do a little bit of work to it yet.
I have a question on that. We're going through that kind of question.
Okay. Yep. And then do the total sequence. Yep. Gotta get the values. Okay. Now create a pivot chart. Yeah. So now we can paste this thing over. There. Size it up. The color scheme. Oh. So notice how these are all filtered and those are filtered, and that's not filtered. So now because we need to tell the slicer to look at that third pivot table over here. So we're going to go to right click on the slicer. Report connections. And we're missing some choices. So that's a problem. So we're going to hit cancel. And we're going to go over to our labor cost per product pivot table. And we're going to change data source. Go to analyze. Change data source. And we're going to add, instead of a Y, we're going to add a C column. We've added a new column.
So I took it out on sales trip data for sure.
Okay. So now that one will be good.
Pushed it off until last night to do most of it for the sales trend stuff yesterday. I pushed off most of it. So then last night I was doing it, and then I did what I thought we were supposed to do. Because we're so far away from Tuesday, I forgot some things. So I didn't do the summary, basically summary per category. I just did literally all the stuff, just in the raw form.
So now,
and by the time I realized, when I finally reread, I'd reread the instructions a bunch of times, but I wasn't quite understanding them. And then when I finally realized what exactly he was saying, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna go with what I have.
I do look tired today.
Yeah.
Mine slept through the night 2 nights in a row, finally.
Nice.
So, good to go with them. Yep. Okay. Good.
Yeah, when you Well, what got me thinking about it at first, I totally just overlooked it, but
Yeah.
it was for the bubble chart. I'm like, you know, a bubble chart's gonna have 100 items. It can't even handle that many
Right.
items because I didn't put them in the.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I was at home just trying it on my Mac. So you know, I mean, I have Excel on the Mac,
Yeah.
and you know, can make it work, but it's pretty glitchy sometimes.
Yep.
And so I was like, you know.
I had a question about
Yeah.
integrity. So I'm in the A section. Isn't this the B section? Or it doesn't matter because I've looked at these videos and they're like it's from the second class.
Oh,
I was trying to look at. I know it's the same class, but I was like looking for recordings from our class to like review some stuff.
so the last one for this. Is in,
And then when I click courses,
so wait, which one did you look in?
this is the only one I have.
Oh,
Because this isn't this B, the one. This is
Yeah. huh.
And I'm in the for Blackboard
You're in
section B.
section B for Blackboard. Really?
It takes me all like 30 classes. Teaching section A.
I'm gonna have to look at that then. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to look at videos from what the classes before. And, I mean, I know it's the same class, but
Yeah, different
it
discussion.
shows
Yeah.
me this. They're at different class times and different videos.